Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello and Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. Today's Daf is Menachos Pei Zayin. So we finished the Mishnah yesterday. We're holding at the beginning of the Gemara here, which is 6 lines off the top of the Amud. The Gemara will now refer back and quote the Mishnah as follows. Ein mevin loy masik v'loy mavushel. So we speak about sourcing wine for the nesachim, for the karbanos. Mishnah says you don't bring sweet, naturally sweet wine, v'loy mavushel, nor cooked, v'loy ma'ushan, or smoked, and it's critical. It doesn't work. Maybe possible. You bring it, it's possible. Disqualified totally. So that's a quote from the second part of the Mishnah. But the issue is that a couple of lines earlier, the Mishnah seemed to say otherwise. That sweetened is sweet wine is not preferred, but it's okay. Look at the beginning of the Mishnah. Earlier it says Ein mevin es hal yistain. Don't bring hal yistain. It may be kosher. That's a form of sweet wine, and it works. And here it says it doesn't. Amar Ravina kreich v'tani. Wrap it all together as one sentence, meaning the Mishnah never said it's kosher. Don't bring hal yistain, and the Mishnah continues and sort of recaps and says, yeah, don't bring that one, the naturally sweet, because it's possible. So it's really not a contradiction at all. It's possible. Kreich v'tani, wrap it together and learn it as one statement, one halach. Rav Ashi Amar, he says, actually, we're talking about two different things. There are two variations of sweet wine. Chulya de shimsha, if the sweetening was affected by the sun, so it's a late harvest which ends up, sort of staying out longer and was sweetened through that process. That's not disgusting. That's it's not ideal. Ideally, wine shouldn't have that element of sweetness, but after all, it works. It's not as deficient as chulya the pera. That's mos. If the chulya, the sweetness, is rooted in the actual grape, the fruit itself, there's something deficient within the grape itself, that's mos. That's mos and cannot be used for karbanos. What about aged wine? Ein mevin yashin, you can't do that. Divrei, that's the opinion of Rebbe. They say it's okay. Amar Chizki, my time with the Rebbe, why does Rebbe disallow the old wine? Amar Kro, we have a pasuk which compares wine to a sheep, like keves yain. And we know ma keves ben shnasoi, just like the sheep has to be within the first year of its birth to be suitable for carbon. Af yain ben shnasoi, likewise wine has to be fresh wine. Ima keves ben shtei shanim pasel. Well, if you're comparing it through this hekesh to in this pasuk to a sheep, so it should be critical, which means to say that not just lichatchil, not just as a preference, but just as by a keves, if it's past the first year, if it's within the second year, it's pasul. The same should be with wine. It should be ma'akev. Ima keves, if so just like a keves ben shtei shanim pasul, if it's overage, it's pasul. Af yain, likewise wine, if it's overage, it should be pasul. Shtei shanim is pasul. Chitei mechanami. So perhaps it's right. Who says not? Well, the Brisa says not. Vatanya, the Brisa says, even according to Rebbe, it's not preferred, but it works. It passes. Vatanya yain ben shtei shanim lo yavi. Don't bring the old wine to your maybe kosher, but it brings it, it's okay. Man shamas ledamar lo yavi. Who's the one who supports this point to avoid the older wine? That's Rebbe. The Brisa clearly says it's acceptable. It may be kosher. Well, if it's learned from the pasuk, it should be critical. Elam arava. I'll tell you why, according to Rebbe, the older wine is not suitable. Lichatchila. Hainu time with the Rebbe. I'll tell you Rebbe's reason. It's based on a pasuk in Mishlei, which extols the virtues of fresh wine. So that's why we prefer it. It's a preference, but it's not critical. The pasuk says, "Al teir yain," don't be drawn after the excitement of wine. Al teir yain ki is Adam, be drawn by the sparkling redness. Is Adam as the oidem, and the Chachamim. Rashi explains the Chachamim knew that the true red pigment is only present during that first year, but past that point it sort of fades and it's not the ideal premier quality wine. So that's why, according to Rebbe, we shy away from that, but only l'chatchila b'diavad it's kosher. Ein mivin lo minat loya is tana. So where do you take your grapes from? Kromim havudim pamayim b'shana, those vineyards which are cultivated twice a year. Then you know you have good stuff. Rav Yosef havale karna de paradisa. In fact, Rav Yosef followed this instruct. He had this little corner, this little patch of vineyard, and he cultivated it twice. The Rafik Beit Tvei Rivka. He did an extra Rivka, an extra, overturning of the soil, which enhanced its ability to, right? It gave it extra nutrients, extra power. Va'avad Chamra. So that wine produced from that area was so strong and powerful. The Dari Maya. So you would dilute it with water. Al Chad Train, twice as much as standard. Typically, it's 1 part to 3 parts wine or 2 parts wine. So this was double as much. That's how good it was. So, in terms of storing the wine, ideal is not big ones, not big vats, rather smaller ones. Now the Bryce will point out that smaller doesn't mean really small; it means medium-sized vats. That's the ideal. Tana, we learned in the Bryce, chavias, kadiyas, barrels, pitchers, ludiyas, binoniyas from lud, the medium-sized ones. Furthermore, to ensure the integrity of the wine, make sure that you separate the barrels. Don't put them together next to each other as pairs, because if one spoils, it's going to contaminate the one next to it. Put them separately to keep them safe and sound. So the Mishnah, we learned that the Gizbar, the one in charge in the Hegdish, he has this little stick, and he gives a little tap when he sees the sediment coming out with the wine, as an indication that they have to, quickly close the spigot. Now, why doesn't he just speak it out? Tana. So first of all, we learned in a brisa, Zarak Hagir, when the gir comes out, it means shal shmarim. So the flow of gir is a white material from the residue from the bottom. When you start saying that, Gizbar hikish bekana, the Gizbar snaps with his why don't you just say it out? Why do you have to snap with sticks? That's right, Rabbi Yechanan. We have an interesting parallel. Just like we know that speaking helps the besamim. So when they used to crush the incense for the Beis Hamikdash, they would speak. They would say, Hadeg, Heitev, Heitev, Hadeg, right? Crush well crushed, right? Somehow words. When you speak near the psalmim, it enhances the psalmim. So the reverse, just exactly the opposite, is by wine. Kach dibura l'yayin. Speaking actually is detrimental to wine. So they used to keep hush quiet, and he would just use sticks. And Rabbi Yosef Brida Omer, he says if the barrel is found to have discovered to have these kmach and these layers, some white residue inside, the whole barrel is possible. So to what extent is it considered possible? So this we had the other day as well. What if you magdish it? Okay, he chooses to be magdish something which is unsuitable. Does he get malchus? Like by a fellow who's magdish an animal which has a mum? Higdisha, if he designates this unsuitable wine, does he get malchus? Mishum, on account of balmum, like a blemished animal. Given the puzzle, shall we say, since it's disqualified, it's deficient. Kir balmum dam, has the same status as a balmum, and he gets malchus for giving it away. Or you can say, no, ain balmum behema. After all, the true status of balmum only applies to a behema, living animal, which is blemished. But wine, even if it's inferior and deficient, it's not labeled as a balmum. Take it, we'll leave it unresolved. Tanarabana. Okay, you're looking for good rams, for good sheep, for good. This is where you go. Tanarabana Elim, you want the best rams? Mimayav, go to Mayav. Kvasim, that you go Michavrain. Agolim, calves, Mishan, a place called Sharain. Gazalais, birds, Maharamelach. Bidaimer, Mivin Kvasim, Shagam and Kirach. When ideally you get the really wide, fatty sheep that their width corresponds to their height. What do we find? this idea in a pasuk. Read this coming from a pasuk. Kar is the sheep, nirchav wide. Interestingly, Tesis brings that the kvasim that they used for the carbon tamid was so tall that first of all they would chew off the cedar trees, that they would eat off the cedar trees, and when they would how they transport them to Yerushalayim, he says they would put them on gemalim, on camels, and their legs would drag on the floor. That's how big and usually were. Ksiv, okay, so on account of the previous lesson by Rava Bar Avshil, we have another one from the same Manda Omer on these psukim. Ksiv, so the pasuk speaks about Al Chaymu Yisayich Yerushalayim Yifkan De Shemrim Kol Hayom V'Chol HaLayla. So Rashi says Shemrim are the Malachim, so there were angels guarding over Yerushalayim all time. Kol Hayom V'Chol HaLayla Tamid Lo Yechsha Maskir Mes Hashem Al Dim Lachem. They're always expressing as Hashem. My Amri, what are they saying? What are they saying? What are they davening? What are they saying? Those malachim. Hachi Amar Rav Barashila. Ato Sakum. So this is during the time of exile. They're davening to Hashem. Please Hashem, restore the status, the glory of Yerushalayim. Rebuild Yerushalayim. Ato Sakum Taracham Tzion. Rach Marshil. Ovitzuk Amar. They say Bani Yerushalayim Hashem. Umikar Ma'abu Amri. And earlier, before the destruction, what were they saying then? Amar Rav Barashila. They were expressing the pride of Yerushalayim. Ki baruch Hashem b'tzion. Hashem chose Yerushalayim Iva as a place of l'moshe Loi. He desired it as a place of his dwelling. Harin l'chol kabanas hatzibur. Says the Mishnah. Shtei midas shel Yoash hay b'mikdash. In the Mikdash, they had two measuring units, measuring cups, measuring containers that they would use for karbonis, etc. So there were only two dry measuring, meant for dry material. One was isaron. Isaron means a tenth, right? Asiri, a tenth of what? Of an ephah. Some say it's about 4 liters, equivalent to 4 liters. Pretty big amount of flour for a mincha. Isaron was the amount needed for a mincha. And also, v'chatzi isaron, there was a measure which was the side of a half isaron. What for? We'll see later on. Rabbi Omer, no, there was an extra one as well. There was isaron, like we just said, and plus another isaron. By the way, when we speak about, two midas, it didn't just have two. It means to say that there were two categories, two sizes. Now, of course, each one could have had 100. Could have been 100 isarons and 100 halves to be used by all the people bringing carbonates. But in terms of sizes, there were only two. According to Rameir, there was an isaron plus another isaron, which was slightly different than this one. We'll see later in the Gemara exactly what the difference was. And then there was the half, a chatzi isaron. It says the Mishnah, isaron, the isaron cup or container, mahi mishamish. What was its purpose? That was used to measure up the silas for your standard mincha, which needed an isaron. Okay, so that was a very popular measuring container. Now, although we know that when it comes to the minchas nesachim of a par, of a cow, you need 3 yisroinim. An ayil needs. They didn't have a 3-pounder. They used to use the same yisara and measure 3 times to get to 3. They wouldn't use a 3-pounder for the par, or 2-pounder for the ayil. He would measure up the yisara 3 times to get to the desired total. So that was the function of the Isar. Chatzi Isar Ma'im Mashamash. What about the half Isar? What was that for? That was meant to measure up the material for the Chavita Kohen Gadol, which, as we learned earlier, was delivered as a full Isar, but then it was split into 2, divided into 2 halves. One for the half for the morning, Mechza Babayker, Mechza, and the other half in Abayim for the evening. Tanya Rameir. So Rameir presents his shita that there were 2 measurements, each one contained an Isar. Matam Alaymer, so what does the pasuk mean? Isaron. It mentioned this word Isaron twice. Like there are 2 types of Isaron containers. Now, if there were both Isaronis, what's the purpose? There was a slight difference. Echad Kodesh. One was heaped. So we see from the Gemara over and over that they used to actually heap. So let's say the Isaron was, let's call it a pound, right? they would add another heap over it, which was like an ounce or two of material. So that was the standard isaron, which was used for the mincha. Ve'echad machok. The one next to it was slightly larger, would contain a bit more in order to contain the regular pound plus the ounce of heap within itself. So it would just be topped off flat without heaping. We'll see in a minute why, because it was handled, you didn't want it to spill. So it would actually have to contain within it the extra ounce as well. That's what machok means. That's why you can just flatten it, top it up without overfilling. And the Gemara explains. The first one, which was the gadish, which you filled with a heap, overfilled, that was your standard measurement. It was used to measure up for all the menachos. What about the machok? The one that was larger with the heap inside already. And Rashi explains, why? Because it would go through several measuring steps. First you bring it in as a full isar, and then you go and you divvy it half, you can start spilling and moving things around. If you're going to have the heap above the rim, as is usually done, it's going to end up spilling all over the place. In order to avoid that issue, to keep it safe and sound, to keep it neat and contained, you would have the measuring container a bit bigger, a bit larger, and would contain within itself all the desired material. Hence, we need two isroinas. One for standard mincha, one for chavita and gadol. The Chacham Oimrim, no, they weren't concerned about this issue. Just had one isaron, that's it. Actually, later the Gemara will tell us, according to Rabbanan, actually they were concerned, meaning there was only one isaron, which was a machak, which had within it the extra. So we accommodate everything, including chavitik and gadol in the same container. You don't need two. Lo yisham isaron echad. Shenamar, look at the pasuk. Isaron echad, akavasa echad. Isaron echad means only one. It was only one unit of isaron. So what do they do with Rav Meir's pasuk, which refers to two isar and isar? L'rabba is chatzi isar. That wasn't coming to add another isar, measuring cup, rather to add the half. For Rav Meir, okay, according to him, chatzi isar. How does he know? There's an extra one for half. Tam klem isarin. It says v'isar, the extra vav of isar and echad covers the extra chatzi isar measuring cup. For Rabbanan, they don't dwell on the vav in this case. Okay, for Rav Meir. Now let's go the other way. Rav Meir, what does he do with the Chachamim's source? The pasuk which indicates that there was only one isar in measuring cup. For Rav Meir, what do you do with that? That's going to teach you that you're meant to always only use the isarin unit. Even if you're looking to make three isarinis, like for the par, etc., you just use the same isarin over and over again to get to the desired quantity. That pasuk is coming to tell you, you should not use a three, isaron unit for the par, which needs three isroinos. And likewise, shouldn't use a two, a pounder for the aisle. Isaron echad, you only use one isaron over and over again. V'Rabbanan, nafklu nikude. How do Rabbanan know this point? Because there's a dot over the letter of vav in the word v'yisarin, and the vav restricts to tell you you only use the yisarin. You don't make a double or triple yisarin container. The Sanya, as we find in the Brisa, Amar Rabbi Yossi, lama nakad vav. Why do we find a little dot in the Torah over the vav, which is situated in the middle of the word of yisarin? Shebe'emtze yisarin. Which yisarin? Where shall yisarin rishain? Shel Yom Tavishin Harishin Shel Chag. You look at the first day of Sukkot. So the first time it says Isarin, you have the little dot there to teach you that you're only meant to use the Isarin container, never a double Isarin, triple Isarin. Shaloi Yimdoid should not measure up for the three Isarin of the par, a big three Isarin unit. No, Loi B'Shel Gimel Par, Loi B'Shel Shnaim La'ayil. Okay, Rav Meir, what does he do with the dot? He doesn't dwell on this dot in this case. He doesn't apply it for this in this context. Okay. So bottom line is, according to all shittas, there was a chatzi isarin. According to all shittas, there was an isarin as well. According to Rav Meir, there was an extra isarin. One was for standard menachos, which he calls gadish, which was overheaped, according to, and then there was a second one, which was a machak, which was merely flat on top. It was not overfilled, so that was used for the chavitin, so it doesn't spill. Chatzi isarin mahi meshamesh sheba yahaya moidei. The chavitik and gadol, according to the chatzi isarin, was meant to measure up the the two halves for the Kohen Gadol's chavitin. Now it sounds like you would bring it in like that. You would bring it to Beis Hamikdash and right away measure up a half for the morning, come back, measure up another half for the afternoon, which sounds like it's the first time it was measured up and first time it became Kaddish. Because remember, these midos, these containers are klei shares, which sanctify their content. Moeded, really? That's how you do it? For Amini, we have a brayso that you don't do it like that. Chavit Kohen Gadol, you don't bring it at half at a time. Ella rather, maybe you Yisrain Shalem. You deliver it as a full Yisrain, right? And a klei shares. Then afterwards you divide it. Amar Rav Sheshes, that's exactly what the Mishnah means. Of course, it starts off in a Yisrain. My moeded, nami dektanim mechal when the Mishnah says you measure it up into a half Yisrain. It means to say you take the content of the full Yisrain. So first you put it into that one, and then mechalak you divide it into two using the half Yisrain container. Rami Bacham, he asked the question, Chatzi Yisrain shel Rav Meir. So we know that the Yisrain used for chavitin, according to Rav Meir, was larger in size to keep its content safe and sound. What about the Chatzi Yisrain, Rav Meir? According to him, Gadish Haya Machakaya. Was it Gadish? Was it overfilled? Or Machakaya was the extra already embedded inside to keep it neat and safe? Ask the Gemara, why are we only dwelling on this case? With Tiboydach, the same question could be posed to Rabban contra Rabbana. Right? What happens to the Chatzi Yisrain? Says the Gemara, you're right. L'Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, Yisrain Gufei. According to Rabbanan, you can ask the same question regarding their Yisrain, which was also meant to be used for Chavitin, which logically would require a machuk to keep it safe because it can be moved around and measured and remeasured. Was it a Gadish Haya or a Machak Haya? Amar Rav Chizda responds like this. I'll give you, an answer that answers all your questions. We'll draw a chain parallel. Midra Rav Meir, from Rav Meir's words, his opinion regarding the Yisrain used for Chavitin, which he says has to be Kadosh, Nishma. We will now derive, that will clarify for us Rav Meir's opinion regarding the Chatzi Yisrain used for Chavitin. Presumably, it runs the same system. It's also Machak. Otherwise, you're going to confuse yourself. This one, the heap is outside, heap is inside. You're not going to wait. So once we establish that, let's take it a step further. Umid Rav Meir, based on Rav Meir's Shita, Nishma l'Rabban will clarify the Rabban's opinion as well. Meaning, Midam Rav Meir, once Rav Meir tells us Yisrain for the Chavitin was the Machak, was the one that had the Goydish inside, assumingly Chatzi Yisrain Nami Machak. Chatzi Yisrain used for the Chavitin also ran the same system. Right? Presumably they're on the same track to keep things consistent. Okay, once you establish that, Midam Meir Machak. So once we assume that according to Rav Meir, it's all Machak, right? Rabban Nami Machak. According to Rabban as well, their Yisrain is also Machak. Why not? Meaning, the same concern Rav Meir has. The reason why Rav Meir requires that the Yisrain for Chavitin should be Machak to keep the material safe and sound, the same would apply to Rabban as well. Otherwise it's going to spill out. Meaning, even though according to Rabban it's all just one and the same measurement cup being used for all Menachos, but after all it's also going to be used on a daily basis for the Chavitin, which might spill because of all its movement and shifting around and transferring of materials. So let's assume that their one Yisrain was in fact Machak to accommodate the Chavitin. So bottom line is like this. We have an Yisrain, we have a Chatzi Yisrain, we have an extra Yisrain as well. It's all going to be Machak, except for one Yisrain, which according to Rameh is only going to be used for other Menachos, the extra one, and that's Gadish. Another question. The poster of Chisda. So back to the Chavitin. So again, you deliver it in the Yisrain, then you divide it again into two halves. Half for the morning, half for the evening. And in the morning you make 6 challah, 6 little rolls, 6 loaves, and the same in the afternoon. Now how you split your batch into 6. It's already in dough form. A little hard to split it evenly. How do you split into individual chalas? Into 6 chalas. Do you use your hands? Is it a manual system, or do you have a kli for that? So it's more pshita. Of course you do it manually. Because it's going to require a kli, turtan yachnis. He's going to bring a scale into the azara and measure up the dough. And it's hard to use just a container because dough doesn't really avail itself, doesn't really adjust properly to a volume, based container. So it's what's the big deal? V'yachnas, okay, so bring in a scale. No, it's inappropriate. Given the kloloksiv, since it's in the teichacha, it's a negative reference in the Torah. Shivu lachmachem b'mishkal. There's going to be a shortage of bread, which you're going to have to measure up and ration. So it's not a good presentation for the Beis Hamikdash, which is the makom of bracha, right? Given the kloloksiv lavarachar, it's not appropriate, and therefore we assume there's no scale involved. Rather, you just do it manually as best as you could. Another question. Shulchan Mao shikadish kmatzim b'gadish shaloi. Okay, so we speak about the material sitting in the heap, right? So in similar fashion, we have a question regarding the shulchan, which had the bread situated on it. Now, as we know, the shulchan didn't really have an interior, didn't have a containment, right? There was no walls around it. It was a flat surface with piles of bread, right? Lechem aponim. What if you put something directly on that surface? It doesn't really belong on the surface, like the levina, the spices which are meant to be in the bazichan, the spoons. You put them directly on the table, on the shulchan, or as Tosfos says, the kaimetz of a mincha. Is it going to be mekadesh begoyde shaloi in this area which is above its surface? Shall we say, perhaps yes, just as it sanctifies its bread, despite just sitting on its surface, perhaps it's mekadesh the kaimetz as well. Even without an interior, without a containment. Or you can say the chazilei mekadesh. Yeah, the breads belong there. It's suitable for so it's mekadesh. The lechazilei material, which is not meant to be there, perhaps lei mekadesh. It doesn't do it. Amalei, you say ain't mekadesh. No, it's not mekadesh, not material. Ain't really. Rabbi Yochanan told us that it is. According to the shita that the lechem aponim was folded 2.5 tefachim on either side. So basically, the lechem aponim was 10 tefachim long, and the shulchan was only 5 tefach wide. So if you lay the length of the bread across the width of the shulchan, you have 5 extra tefach. What do you do with it? You fold it up. So it's 2.5 tefach on either side, fold it up, and then you stack the lechem aponim one on top of the other, 6 in total. So you multiply, in terms of the height, you multiply 2.5 tefach by 6, get you 15 tefachim. So the shulchan had that ability to be mekadesh upwards. Its kedusha reached upwards 15 tefachim. According to the shita that the shulchan was 6 tefachim wide, so the breads, which were 10, overlapped 4, 2 on each side, so you only folded up 2 tefach up on either side, stacked by 6, gets you 12 in total. So again, according to the shita, you would fold the breads up 2.5 tefach on either side. So it turns out that the shulchan reaches up 15 tefach. According to the shita, you only fold them up 2 tefach on either side. It comes out that the kedusha of the shulchan only reaches 10 tefachim high. But in any case, it's not just teaching us arithmetic. That's pretty obvious. We all know what he meant to teach us. Obviously, that the shulchan is mekadesh materials up until that point. So its power reaches up until 12, 15 tefachim. It's mekadesh, whatever you put there. And here you tell me that it's not mekadesh anything aside from the lechem amalei. So he says, I meant like this. When I said ein mekadesh, it doesn't have that kedusha effect. L'karev. It doesn't affect it in a positive way to enable it to be brought in the mizbeach. Ava mekadesh l'pasal, but of course, certainly it has an effect. It elevates its kedusha to the extent that it makes it susceptible. It makes it more delicate, susceptible to deficiencies like lina if it's now left overnight, right? Now it's sort of enters the realm of carbon material, which is affected by the carbon experience. Lina and Tvul Yom touches it or leaves the area, becomes puzzle. That's what I meant, but certainly it does not have a very positive effect. It doesn't belong there. Only on the lechem aponim, which is the proper material for the shulchan. Okay. Let's just recap. We spoke about 2 midas of yavish, 2 dry, measuring containers meant for dry material. Isaron and Chatzi Isaron. Chatzi Isaron was for the Chavitin, Isaron was for the regular Menachos. There was an extra Isaron for Chavitin and Gadol. And we learned that these things had to be machuk because of the extra transferring and shifting of the Chavit Kohen Gadol material. We spoke about splitting the material manually. We spoke about the shulchan's ability to be mekadesh on its surface. Okay, now we shift to liquid measuring containers. In fact, there was 7 of them. And the Gemara later will tell us it was a Gemara, it was a traditional Chumash Sinai that they had a total of 7. Different sizes. Sheva midois shalach. 7 kalim, containers meant for measuring of liquid materials. Hayu b'mikdash. So we start with the grand hin. Hin was 12 log, a huge amount. Hin, v'chatzia hin. And then we go down to half a hin, which is 6 log, meant for the par, for the wine of the par. Shlish hin, a third of a hin, which is 4 log. Uruvisa hin, a quarter of a hin, which is 3 log. Then we have the log, v'chatzi log, half to log, uruvisa log. Like we make kiddush, uruvisa log, right? So it's 7 in total. Rabbi Lezer B'Shimon, he says there was no 7. It was one humongous tank, one big container, which was marked. It was marked along its wall. Shnosais, these markings, Hayu were in the hin to indicate half, quarter mark, right, etc. Ad kan lapar, you want to bring wine for the par up until here. This is the halfway mark for the chatzia hin. V'ad kan la'ayil, until here you bring for the ayil, ad kan lakevet, etc., etc. Reb Shimon Omer, he says there were 7 separate ones, but not the hin. There was no purpose in having a hin. What's the purpose of a hin? There was no visible function for it in the Beis Hamikdash. It was only back in the Midbar when they made the Shemen HaMishcha. They needed a hin, but what's the point of having it today? Ella, rather he says like this, I agree we have to have 7. So instead of the hin, replace it with something else, as follows. There was another unique one, which was a 1.5 one. Hasham was there. Why? What purpose did that serve? That's for the chavitin, right? You start off with 3 lug, but then you split into 2, half for the morning, half for the afternoon. Lug mechza for the morning, lug mechza min abayim. Tanar Rabbanan. So the Brayso again will enumerate all the different measuring containers. Sheva midois shalacha b'mikdash. It was a total of 7 midois. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, we start from the bottom up, from the small to the big. Okay, it starts with the smallest, Revi'is lug, up to v'chatzi lug, and then v'lug, Revi'is ahin, Shlish ahin, v'chatzi in v'hin. Rabbi Omer, no, we start from top to bottom. We start from big, and then we go to small. What's the difference? We'll see in the Gemara. Hin is the first one, v'chatzi hin, Shlish ahin, Revi'is ahin, v'lug, v'chatzi lug, Revi'is lug. Rabbi Omer, once again, he says there was no point for a hin, lo yoyu hin, sham hin, v'chim ahin, mishamash. What's the purpose of the hin? It had no visible function. So what will I replace him with? There was a 1.5 lug unit there, which helped us for the chavitin. Lug mechza for the morning, lug mechza ben abayim for the afternoon. Chacham told them, you don't need to have a special measuring cup for that. Just use the half lug unit and measure up 3 times to get you to 1.5. Very simple. We had a half a lug unit. Just use that 3 times over. He says, well, according to you, so why do you need anything? So according to you, as well, chatzi lug, v'lug. Well, yeah, so why bother making a half lug or a lug unit? Just use the quarter one over and over again. You want to get a half a lug? Measure up the revi'is twice, right? Revi'is is Hashem. If you can use the revi'is. Ella, rather, it must be that the answer is this was the rule in the Mikdash. Kli shemer shamish bidazu. A kli which serves a specific, function, specific quantity, quantitative purpose, right? A no yemer shamish bidachers would not be used for a different quantity. So that explains why you need a 1.5 unit for the chavitin. No, so how did the Rabbanan respond to this? The Tosfos says, Rabbanan held that you don't necessarily need a designated midah for each purpose, but he says chatzi lug, let's say, was needed for many things. It was needed for the soita water, for the oil of the toida, for the oil for the menorah. It had so many functions, so that's why they designated a special one, for that. But Chaviti Kohen Gadol was just the once a day thing. So for that, you can suffice with the improvising by using the chatzi lug and measuring it up 3 times to get you to the desired quantity. Okay, we'll continue with Hashem in this topic tomorrow. All the best to you. B'suras Toivos and Hatzlacha Rav.